that is formed of, I think it was actually your actual nieces called you that, and they were the oldest in the church. They kind of started calling you that, but it's also you all fulfill that position as my aunt and uncle a lot in that capacity in our church. So thanks for being here, guys.
Thank you.
Very appreciative.
We on? Hello?
Are we on?
Hello? Test 1, 2.
We will be on. I have full faith in Benji.
That guy is coming.
Is it on?
I have a red light, and it says on.
We'd like to take this moment to just once again thank our sponsors. 610 Coffee Company for their good work.
Oh, okay.
As we have a quick mic change, I just want to thank another sponsor, Buckler Ministries, for their sponsorship of this event.
Here, I'll give you the best.
This is disturbing.
I don't think it's attached.
There we go. Okay. He'll have to. He's got a bad leg. He can't move very fast.
No.
Yeah, you're on.
I'm on.
Okay, here we go. All right.
Okay.
We're on.
All right. Well, first of all, I'll just start with asking you. So why coffee? You know, a lot in the business world, people will ask like, follow your passion, create your business around your passion. So why coffee as a business?
Well, I'm going to speak to that. First of all, I want to thank Ethan. Am I a little hot? No? Okay. All right. See all these cards? I don't do this. I'll just say when we were asked to speak here, Dan and I both got severe anxiety. But we felt like it was something that we wanted to share our experience because God has showed us along the way how he can use broken vessels that are willing to be used by him. So if you don't mind, I would like to just start with prayer, and that will maybe calm my nerves as well. So, dear Father, thank you for this opportunity to be here. Thank you for these dear friends, fellow believers in Christ. We pray that you would calm our hearts and our minds, bring our thoughts in, and help us to focus on what you would have us portray today. Help us to remember that you're in the boat with us and you're guiding us, leading us, and supporting us in all that we give to you. In Jesus' name, amen. So, with our background, it would have been the obvious thing for us to do something real estate, something construction, something combined, fixer-uppers, that kind of thing, which we have done in the past. But Dan will share a little bit about how this whole thing really started coming about. But when it did start coming about, we were seeking for something to do in Salem. So we both had a bit of a passion for coffee when we'd travel. He traveled for 15 years, 4 weeks home, 4 weeks gone. And that whole thing was getting old for both of us, as you can imagine. And so we were looking for something that could keep Dan home, that could possibly use both of us. So I had a bit of an interest, a small dream, I guess you could say, in 15, 20 years ago that, maybe a coffee shop would be a cool thing to do. But I really did. It was very small vision. I really didn't have a full vision of how it could be used. And looked into it a little bit, but timing just was not ideal, and so it just kind of passed it off. But then we had a need to actually have income and try to stay closer to home, and so we got to looking at it a little more seriously. We obviously didn't have any expertise in it, any background in it, so it took a lot of research on our part, and that's one thing. Dan is really good at research, and give him something to research. He'll look it up on YouTube and find people that have done this and how to learn from them. So it took a lot of that kind of thing, finding partners with other coffee shops that were willing to share information, that kind of thing. So it took us down a journey of a lot of research, and that's okay. It was especially unique after COVID, because we were thinking, a coffee shop sit down maybe was previously what I had thought of, but after COVID, then it was like, well, you really need a drive-through scenario. So it totally switched to drive-through only, which is what we ended up creating. But that's kind of how it evolved, I guess, was just, our love for coffee and seeing that there was a need in Salem. There were no coffee shops in Salem whatsoever. There had been one, it had closed, it had poor parking, no drive-through. And so we saw that there could possibly be some improvements on what they had attempted to do. So that's kind of what got us going that direction.
Yeah, for sure. Well, so I kind of know basically the story, but so you were a pilot for several years, helicopter pilot. You trimmed electrical lines. So what happened that made the transition from that to starting a coffee shop? I know you mentioned the scheduling, but
Yes, so the fact that I'm sitting up here doing this is a testament to God and to, I guess you could say, second chances, not second chances like I was doing something wrong and he gave me a second chance to, to get it right or to get saved or whatever. But I'll just share a couple of pictures with you. So I have, for years, I would get up front at church and sing, lead singing and speak and do different things, and not a problem. But I've developed an acute anxiety issue. And when Carma said that when I got the email from Phil, thank you, Phil, asking if we would speak, I mean, immediately quite severe anxiety. And my first thought was, I can't do that. There's no way. There's no way. And so Carma and I chatted about it, and we had this passion to share what God has brought us through, our story, and what we've learned with folks exactly like you. And so when the opportunity came, it's like, well, this is what we've been talking about and the passion that we have. So it's an opportunity, and anxiety or no anxiety, we're going to do this. And God can take I kept thinking of this preparing of, I don't know if any of you have watched The Chosen or are familiar with The Chosen, but they talk about bringing the loaves and fishes. And we are bringing our loaves and fish to God, and we're just going to drop them off and let Him do with what He would like. And so if you see me start sweating profusely, I don't think I'll pass out, but I have had episodes that I just about passed out. So anyway, if I've got some bottled water here, that's partly why the chairs are here. And so just to be totally upfront with you, and there may be someone here that is struggling with anxiety. And if you are, there are ways to work through it. And I have a weekly breakfast with a close friend of mine that is part of that solution. And so anyway, so that kind of brings up, and it actually plays a part into why I switched. So I started having some anxiety issues just out of nowhere while I was flying, and I had it twice. And the first time I didn't really put two and two together. Second time I realized, okay, there's an issue, and so I had to quit flying. And I think we had already started maybe thinking about doing the coffee and trying to get home off the road. We've been talking about that for quite a long time. And it just seemed like things started kind of working together and things started moving in the directions, in a certain direction. And we just took the next step, and just trusted God with it. So I want to share a couple of pictures, rewind back just a few months prior to my having to quit flying. I had another issue, and this is the one where I feel like God, and He did. He gave me a second chance. I should not be sitting here. So when I would be home from work, I worked 4 weeks on, 4 weeks off, I would crop dust with the helicopter in my off time. And it was, if any of you are familiar with mode camp, it was actually the Friday of mode camp, starting of mode camp several years ago. And I dropped into a field, started spraying, and I had flown around the field, done my recon like I normally would, looking for power lines and wires and stuff you're not supposed to run into or let run into you. And I managed to miss seeing a wire, and I flew right through a power line. And I'll show you a picture, and it'll prove it. But believe it or not, the head of a number 8 Phillips head screw saved my life. It somehow hung up on the power line and kept it from going up the windscreen and taking out the rotor mast and all the things that keep you flying. And it ended up, it did get in the rotor blades, and you'll see a picture of that too. So just share that just as a testament to, I don't think about it a whole lot, but I do occasionally. It will hit me like a ton of bricks that I shouldn't be here. And in the aviation industry, those kinds of things you don't survive that. You don't survive a wire strike. So if this is working, I think there should be a picture up on the screen. And I'm going to zoom in here so you can see. So I don't know if you can see the cracked windscreen there, but right there, see that little scrape? So that's right. I'll zoom back out so you can get a picture. I hit that wire above those landing lights, right at the bottom of that vertical white line right there in the middle, and it slid up about 1.5 inches, and then right there you can see that kept the wire from going up. And then the next picture we have where the wire got wrapped around one of the rotor blades, and that should have just yanked it off. I mean, why it came loose and broke free, but it cut from the back edge within about that far of going all the way through the blade, and it held together, flew the helicopter out of the field, and landed, not a scratch, nothing, landed like you normally would. So I'm very thankful to God for letting me live another day and bringing us forward. So we'll fast forward. So I had to quit aviation. Went back doing construction, which is not something that I prefer to do. I have a lot of experience doing it. I got burned out on it. I don't really like it. But I just really felt that God was leading us in a direction, and I just went back to doing what I knew I could do in the moment until we knew the next step. So this whole journey has been about taking a step, taking a step, taking a step, and just trusting. And actually, Brother Eric and I were speaking just this past weekend at our Mode Camp retreat of just holding things with open hands and not having a grip on, I'm going to do this, we're going to do this, but just holding with open hands. So just kept moving forward, doors kept opening. We talked about doing a coffee trailer at some point, and that kind of fell through. We were looking at maybe a long-term parking lot lease. We could park a trailer and do that sort of thing, and that just wasn't working. I don't remember, Carma probably came across and found this Speed Lube building that was for sale. It had been sitting vacant for maybe years, a number of years. And so we went and looked at it, and we kind of got a vision of what we thought we could do with it if it would work out. They were asking way too much for the property, for the building. It was in a floodplain, which made it not worth that much. And so we thought, well, we'll make an offer on it. And we made what we thought was a reasonable offer for us for considering the situation, and just trust God with it. If he wants us to have it, he'll work it out. If not, we won't. And it got accepted. And so we're like, okay, now what are we going to do? So we just started moving forward. So the floodplain issue is one of many things that came about that God directly worked. We were confident of that. Did a little bit of research, found out that you can have your floodplain maps amended if you send paperwork in. It just so happened that the son of our real estate agent was a surveyor. He shot elevations for us for a very reasonable price. Sent them into FEMA, and he's like, look, it takes a minimum 6 months, maybe a year to get response back. And in a week and a half, we had our letter back from FEMA, taking us out of the floodplain, which didn't require us to carry flood insurance, which made the whole deal work, which was great. And so we felt like that was a direct answer to prayer and confirmation to move forward. And then we purchased the building, and then we had lots of work from friends. I'll just, a couple of pictures here. I think I'm getting moving a little slow here, so I'll try to speed up. Here is a before picture with a coming soon banner out there, and there's an actual after. This is probably fairly recently. There's a nice picture in the snow. And here's some work. This is Matt Thomas and Ethan's dad on a jackhammer. And then, looky there. There's Ethan.
What a stud right there.
And there's Carma on the jackhammer. She took around on the jackhammer. There's Matt again, hanging some drywall. It took a ton of work, and I know Becca was probably there. We'd have so many pictures and stuff, amazing. And we're going to talk about that, the development of community, long before any of this happened, that made this possible, and how important those relationships are. And we are going to get to marriage, I promise you, at some point here. Okay, and then we were operational in about 6 months after we bought the building, and with the incredible support. And another thing that happened in my aviation career that actually has made this possible. I don't know if it would have been impossible, but we feel like it would have been. I met a guy named Scott down in Texas, a very wealthy gentleman. Just stumbled across him at the airport. He owned several businesses, very generous man. We struck up a friendship, both had a love of flying. He owned 50 or 60 airplanes, a museum type thing and whatnot, and owned a couple helicopters, so we kind of struck it off there. So neither of us knew at that time that coffee was anywhere in either of our pictures. So a few years after that, after meeting him, I don't know how this even happened, but he started a coffee roastery, U.S. Roast, in Texas. And then a few years after that, Dan and Carma open up a coffee shop, or start to open a coffee shop. So I reach out to Scott, and and we have some pictures, they actually did our barista training, which Rebecca Horde was part of one of the original baristas that went down to Texas and had our training there at U.S. Roast. They still roast our coffee for us, and we really feel like that we just found a home run there with U.S. Roast. They've just done phenomenal. And so that relationship was formed during my 15 years of aviation, which I don't think we maybe would have been able to make this work, but I don't know how. And that's just one part of it, was the roastery. So that's how it all sort of came about.
Yeah. So I guess we can get a little biblical here. Why the name 16 Coffee Company? What's the background behind the name of the shop?
So, when this started getting serious, we were like, well, we got to pick a name, Miller's Brews, maybe? No, not.
That definitely wouldn't work. Miller Brew.
You go through drawing up different logos and ideas and whatever, and we have friends that are graphically inclined, so they were helping with that. Nothing was really clicking, and we wanted it to be something, special. And ironically or not, I was having my devotions one morning and reading in Galatians, down through chapter 6, where it talks about don't be weary in well-doing, and it would have been real easy to stop right there because it was a wearisome project. It was trying to figure it all out. And I read on to verse 10 that says, do good to everyone, and especially to the household of faith. And it just like it was right there. Those are the two things that we wanted to accomplish. To do good to everyone was our idea of serving great coffee with really great service. That was a really important component of that. And then being able to pay it forward. We're being able to help some faith-based organizations, from our profits. We did a fundraiser. Well, that was our first year, I think it was.
Yes, I think
with,
so.
The Steve Stetler I don't know if any of you remember that. We were going to bring that bag of coffee along, but we forgot it. We did a special bag of coffee, the Stetler, what do we call it, Legacy?
SS Legacy, Steve Stetler
Yeah.
Legacy.
Did a fundraiser, sold it. Some of you probably even bought some of the coffee. Anyway, paid the proceeds forward to Beth after Steve's passing and helped raise a little money for her. So those kinds of things. We've been doing things in our community. Being able to give back is an important part of that. But we didn't realize really with the whole vision, this two-pronged vision of really how that would play out. We thought a lot about customers. We're going to have hopefully a lot of customers passing through that we can develop relationships with, and that be a part of our ministry, of course. But then as we hired team members to work with us, in the beginning it was people that were part of our church community. We were able to develop closer relationships there. But then as that kind of evolved over the last 2 years, we've hired people that haven't been as close in our church community. And it's given us opportunities to even minister to them, and they minister to us, and developing close relationships there, even with some other churches. We have some apostolic ladies that work for us, and we just need each other. And it's been neat to see how that team aspect has developed, and that's really a ministry, in and of itself. And then there's things like the FedEx guy that comes just about every day, or the UPS person, or the person that delivers our milk, or whatever. Those are relationships that we find, you may not think of them as a big deal, but they're repetitive. You're seeing them every day. They're watching your life. And we hope that we can be, a positive influence for God in those areas too. So, I don't know, gives you a little bit about some of the ways the vision has grown in ways that we never really thought of. Actually, a weekly Bible study has evolved out of the team members. One of the team members took it upon herself to invite some of the team members that seemed to have interest, and now she has a weekly Bible study in her home, and that is growing. And so there's just new things that are sparking up that we had no idea that would be a possibility. So,
And we have seen specific growth in some of our team members, as maybe even a little bit before the Bible study, but certainly after the Bible since it has started, just within our own team. It's just amazing to watch that, and it's like we're tending the fire that creates the atmosphere and the energy and the ambiance and the relationships that spill out into the drive-through to our customers. So you can try to put on and force that relationship and that interaction. But if you develop the team and build those team members, and their response and their interaction to the customers comes from within them organically, you cannot compete with that. And if you want to talk about business, vocation, and competitive advantage, that is a competitive advantage, and it's a competitive advantage that is real. It's a win-win. It's not a win-lose situation. And when you can set up a win-win situation, everybody benefits. Yes, when we're going to talk about this, yes, we need to be profitable, but the real benefit is that the customers they encounter a touch point with Christ, with those baristas, with the team members. And that really is what it's all about.
Yeah. So speaking of that, the profit, we can kind of get a little nitty gritty with the business side of things. Of course, business administration is by far the top degree anyone gets in America. Yet you still have people, the business gurus saying, I can help you build your business, I can do all this. How did you go about building an organization from scratch, from an old car lot into a coffee shop? How did you go about building that organization?
Sure. So I'm going to move a little faster than I have been because I feel like I'm dragging my feet, and I don't want to miss anything. I want you guys to get everything we have here, hopefully get something of it. So first of all, our organization is a for-profit organization, but with the caveat, we try to manage it and think of it in terms that we are stewards of it and not owners of it. We, in our minds, I mean, yes, we own it on paper. In this world, we have to. That's the way it works legally. But we feel that God owns 610 Coffee Company, and we're stewards of it. And it does change a little bit how we go about making decisions, and so that I just wanted to state that up front. So yes, money, we want to be profitable. We need to be profitable monetarily. We must be sustainable and profitable so we can continue the mission. If you're not profitable, then you fizzle out and you're just no more, and you can't really do any good in that capacity if you fizzle out. We also want to be profitable in our mission. We must move our mission forward as God provides, and new opportunities emerge within the business framework. And I will just add, we are firm believers that there are ministry opportunities in every organization, be it for-profit, non-for-profit, educational, your typical ministry, song evangelist, preacher, missionary, what have you, or vocational. Just tremendous. I mean, my brother-in-law, Kurt Ferguson, maybe some of you know, has a tremendous ministry in the legal sector, estate planning, and you have people that are just ripe for hearing about God, and it's great. There's just great opportunities. And I want to add too, we really believe that you must have a mission or a reason behind why you're starting your organization or business. So if you don't really have an underlying mission of what you're really wanting to accomplish, I really think it's just kind of a waste of time. If you don't have a mission, it's really not a good reason to start an organization. Making money, quote unquote, making money is not a good reason alone, I don't believe, to start a business or an organization. You need some sort of a foundation, some sort of a mission, because there are going to be times in your business, in your organization, that it's going to drive you to figure out why, it's really, really hard, or it just seems like it's not working or whatever. Why are you there? Why did we start this to begin with? And sometimes you have to go back to that and sort of get a refresher and rejuvenate and catch a renewed vision of why we're doing this. And sometimes there'll be little snippets. We have a few Google reviews and various comments that we can share with you that we've received. But you'll get a few of those here and there, and you'll be, wow, okay, that brings it right back home. This is why we're doing this. God is good, He's working, and this is why we're here.
Yeah, okay. So at this point in history, you have the building, you have the mission, the groundwork laid out. How do you start getting people involved? How do you start building that team, that core group of people that gets this all done?
So in our case, we were very fortunate to have a church community where we had strong, deep relationships. And as we started talking about this, Rebecca Hord and Emma for example, I presented it to them and took them to lunch one day to Chico's and said, this is what we're thinking about. Is this anything that you guys would be interested in? And they were immediately supportive. And so we had deep relationships that we had built over the years of people that were like-minded. And this is just something that Dan and I feel very strongly about. This is something that you can be developing now, is deep relationships that will last a lifetime. And there's something about when we're talking about marriage conference, I guess, but two people, for instance, when they are unified on a topic or a mission, going forward can create, build some great things. The more people that you add to that, just think about, I think of the Matthew 5, the city on a hill. I don't know how I can paint this picture for you, but the more people that are unified in the same mission of showing Jesus to the world, that takes a lot of work to bring those people together and develop those relationships, but it's very much worth it. It's hard work, but that's kind of where we started, was first with our church community, I guess, and then we had to add more people on from the outside that, weren't quite as close or whatever, but still had that same mission-mindedness that we wanted to show Jesus in our community.
And I'll add to that, seeking input and wisdom from others. None of us is an island. I don't know if you all know that. We need each other. And I think that is by design from God. It actually resembles the relationship, as does a marriage relationship, relationships amongst friends, amongst other people, amongst other humans, mimics that relationship between us and God. And Carma mentioned early on getting input on our logo from our church community. I remember having 6 or 8 variations of our logo, and we took to church and spread out on the front pew after a Wednesday night or something, and everybody's, oh yeah, I like number 1, or I like number 2, or number 6, or whatever. And from having meetings around the table at Rochelle's Dragonfly Study Center, and early on, and making some decisions and talking things over. So Carma and I, we had an initial vision, an initial idea, but immediately we wanted to involve other people, and we needed other people because we knew, we didn't trust ourselves to just go with this totally alone. And so I think that's something that we continue to learn and continue to build on. Also, seek, as you're building a team, you should seek team members that are like-minded and on board with your mission. If you build your team full of people that don't really care, they're just looking for a job, or they, whatever, that is going to change the culture within your organization, which will change, it'll actually make your mission start to morph. You'll get away from your mission, and then your customer, you guys know about Chick-fil-A, right? What do you think the number one thing Chick-fil-A could do to ruin their business? Exactly. Open on Sunday. Why is that? That's because they have built this culture, built these relationships with people, and even the people, their customers, who would buy on Sunday, they would hold it against Chick-fil-A for violating their values by doing that. Now, that's an extreme example, but that's the things that happens initially by developing the wrong team, and then putting the wrong people in managing positions, and then putting the wrong people in the higher positions, and then things start changing. So that's very important. Initially, like Carmen mentioned, our close friends, community of believers were our team. They graciously gave of themselves to make the mission come to life. And now our team, as Carmen mentioned, has grown to others in the Salem community who share our vision. Carmen, do you have anything to add there?
Just kind of reiterating that, I think what you said earlier, being Christ-like. You can't fake that, but it is a tremendous beacon. And Jesus also speaks about, behold how they love one another. People know that you love God when they see that you love one another, and you can work together in unity. And there's just such a powerful message behind that it speaks words, even though you don't have to speak words. And so it's been beautiful to see, and most of it is not us, and that we can say that really loud and clear. We have been very fortunate to have a tremendous team that is locked on to the mission, and they enjoy coming to work, and they enjoy seeing how they can bless people through that little window, maybe 60, 90 seconds or whatever the time they have with a customer. So it's fun to watch as we see the fruits of our labors.
Yeah, so you've talked about this overarching mission and goal you have. What's some of the everyday tasks, the small things that you do to, I guess to put it into perspective of this week, be world changers in your own community?
I thought about this a lot, and I changed it. See these notes? There's a lot of scribbles, and then I rewrote some things. But I don't know if any of you are familiar with Dallas Willard, but I've read some of his books, and he has YouTube videos. I encourage you to look him up. He has some great practical advice. And one thing that came to mind when this question came up was a quote from him: "The most important thing in your life is not what you do, it's who you become." So even this thing that we're doing here today that is way beyond what we're comfortable with, I want it to change me and make me more like him somehow. And hopefully in the process, maybe it'll help someone. But of course, then that does flow through that it will change dramatically what we do as we become more like him. So that, I mean, I think I would be remiss if I did not say that is the most important thing that we can do, and we have to develop that. We have to discipline ourselves to find quiet time. That's one of my biggest things. Is there is so much to do, and everybody's busy. Just everybody you talk to, busy, busy, busy. But we have to take time to feed our soul and become disciples of Jesus, and that changes our perspective. That changes how we can help other people. So it's not a little thing. That's probably the biggest thing in my mind. But then it flows over into a lot of little things that do change as we become more focused on becoming like Christ. I feel like we start thinking of, I was introduced to this idea years ago when I first moved to Salem. I was a Christian, but I'd never really thought about the concept of others-orientedness. Thinking of others before myself, yeah, it sounds good, but really in everyday life, how does that come about? And putting others first, thinking about others' needs, disciplining myself to actively do that day in and day out, hopefully changes us into people that are more like Jesus, and he flows out of us that way. So just, maybe some little things are, can you be counted on? Are you trustworthy? If someone asks you to do something, maybe it's even small, but do you follow through? Do you complete a task? Do it the best you can for Jesus, whether it's washing dishes or it's standing up here speaking. All these things are valuable in God's eyes, and I think I've enjoyed doing a lot of dishes at 610. I can go back there and it's quiet, just me and the dishes and the soap. And you can think, and anyway, I've learned to enjoy doing dishes. I didn't like to before, but anyway, he can change us.
I'll just mention a couple little things as well. The grease trap at the coffee shop. It's a loathsome beast, and it is nasty. And it's like having a miniature sewer tank right there in your coffee shop. So if you're not familiar with what a grease trap is, it's in line with the drain of our main 3-bay sink back there. So everything that gets washed, the drain, it goes through the grease trap and then out the drain. It catches, all the nasty stuff that shouldn't go, grease and stuff like that shouldn't go in the city sewer. Well, that gets built up over time, and guess who gets to empty that? So I usually do the brunt work of that, but, little things. Carma knows that I need help and that it's not a fun job, and so she's right there beside me to help me move stuff out of the way as I'm getting the nastiness out and taking bucket after bucket, after I suck it out into the wet dry vac and taking it out back and dumping it or whatever. It's those little things, and she is showing love to me and helping in a way that isn't not necessarily fun or exciting or anything like that. Another thing, our drive-through, it's a fast-paced environment from the moment you open the doors, till you close at night. There's going to be 200 plus people coming through that day, and they're expecting to have their rose tea or their turtle frap and their banana nut muffin or what have you. And you can't just choose not to worry about ordering caramel sauce or more matcha tea or more whatever, more boba. Oh, for crying out loud, if you run out of boba, you're going to have some irate customers. And if you don't have the flavor they want, they're going to be mad too, because we rotate flavors. And if they want strawberry and you've got kiwi, heaven help you. Anyway, the ordering process and that whole thing, just you cannot let that go. I mean, that's just, you have to do that, and those little things. If you want to maintain your customers, you have to be committed to doing all the annoying little things behind the scenes that make the business thrive. I tell people, handing out that beautiful Frappuccino with that whip and that drizzle, and you hand that out the window to that customer, that is the tiniest speck at the tip top of an iceberg that sticks out of the water. That is almost an afterthought. And now the customer experience, it's everything. That and the whole experience. But for us, operationally, it is nothing. That's the easy part. It's this world that you can't see that's under the water level that has to be managed. That is where it really comes down to. People, processes, and product. Those are the 3 P's that are extremely important. Product, that's easy. That's, for us, it's the easy part. I mean, we feel like we have great products and great ingredients and people that know what to do with them. People and process, those are the 2 big ones. And probably out of those, people is the biggest. That's the biggest human resources. And that's why it's so important to build your team as best as you can. And because the people function, the people part of that will be easier to manage or to deal with. Anything else?
I think so.
Well, since this day is more about marriage, how do you two maintain that marriage relationship while working together? There's often many tales of horror and horrific details of married couples getting into problems, but you're still here. So how do you maintain that relationship?
You want to go first?
You want me to speak to okay, yeah, I'll speak to the marriage specifically. First off, I'll say God is continually working on me. I have many faults and failures and things that I need to work on. Sometimes those things sort of are maybe simmering under the surface, that they don't really show themselves, but during any marriage relationship, and then you take that marriage and you work together in a business organization or any organization, if you're working together in an organization, the simmering, if there are any hot spots or any simmering under the surface, it will boil to the top at some point. And if you're willing to see yourself, there's going to be opportunities to see that. And Carma, I thank her for doing the hard thing. I know it is for me. If there's a time where I need to share with Carma anything that may be an issue that is maybe she needs to look at, and she's willing to do the hard thing for her to share with me something about myself that needs looked at. And that trusting relationship that we've built allows that to happen. And the reason that we can address those things and see ourselves is it goes back to it's this layer, but it all goes back to our trusting relationship with our Father. And as our pastor and the president of Mo Camp, and I know you guys were just at retreat, had a great talk Sunday morning during our Bible study session there in the dining hall, of where our worth truly ultimately lies, and we can't stray from it. And that is that we are valuable. We are, if you want to put it in these terms, we are somebody because God says we are. And he valued us so much that he actually sent his son to redeem us, to restore that relationship. And that's where everything should come back to and gives the foundation to then move forward. The opportunity, I'm going to give you 3 things, at least just quickly here on marriage. And we were talking before this that of all people, we feel completely inadequate to speak on marriage, that sort of thing. We're just not comfortable at all doing this. But I'll give you 3 things: harmony, a plan, and communicate. The opportunity for the most beautiful and meaningful relationship exists in marriage. When two people are in harmony in marriage, much can be accomplished for God's kingdom. And so there's work to be done to maintain that harmony. Plan. So thinking of in business setting, have set aside time to have meetings. Carma and I have meetings, just the two of us. We'll go in the office and we have our business meeting. Discuss the business, discuss projects, share tasks, make a plan, and then execute a plan. And we do it together as a team. And then, and here's a big one. This does not come naturally for me. Communicate. And I think it probably all of us guys probably, at some level we struggle with communicating in a reasonable way to your spouse or your significant other. But it's something that I work on and continue to work on. And usually if there is some sort of an issue that we deal with in our marriage, it goes back to some kind of communication issue, typically.
Brother Heath already touched on this a little bit, but we are different. Men and women are different. We process things differently, and that's okay, and that's really good, actually, because like he said, you need the logical side. I'm the emotional side, but why? It just doesn't feel right or whatever. Dan is more the visionary, so he's, what if we started a 610 coffee company, franchise all over the world, kind of like the Chick-fil-A of coffee, And I'm like,
Karma's like, that's a cool idea. Now, how are we going to get people to do all that?
I'm just too practical. So there are differences, and it's key, I guess, just to make sure that you, again, communicate and recognize those differences and use those differences and strengths that each of us have that are different to make the cause go forward. Don't get hung up on, well, it has to be my idea, or that's not my strength. He talked about the grease trap, but we spend long hours at the coffee shop. We may be there till 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock at night. Then you got to go home and you got all that stuff to do. Well, that's girls' work, right? Washing the dishes and the laundry and all that. He helps me. He doesn't just take out the trash. He washes dishes and does laundry and helps with all that stuff too. So it's not just a stay in your lane type relationship. We feel like it's beneficial to help each other out. You got to work late doing something, I'll come in and help you so we can get it done quicker and those kind of things. So, and he makes popcorn at night too. That redeems him a lot.
We eat a lot of popcorn.
So
I was going to throw something in, and it just completely escaped me that I wanted to mention. Sorry, if it comes back to mind, I'll mention it.
Well, this might help it come back to mind. How do you also, not just a marriage relationship, but like relationships in general, how do you incorporate relationships that you've had maybe previously, but also extending and creating new relationships? How do you involve that in your business and your brand in a general way?
that's a big one. Time is a problem for everybody, I'm sure, but this is just one more thing that may be more along the line of marriage, but in our business, because it can eat you up your time. You can take it home with you. You may be ready to wind down for the evening, but you still got to place the coffee order because it's due before midnight or whatever. So I think he kind of made this rule.
That's actually
The
what
7
I
o'clock
thought
rule.
of and I was going to mention. Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's the 7 o'clock rule. So basically, no more business after 7, which hopefully we can move that up to maybe 6 eventually.
Unless it's an emergency, if it's 7 o'clock and for some reason crazy day happened and she hadn't got the coffee order done or whatever, or she hasn't asked me to do it or what have you, it's going to get done. We're not going to not order coffee because it's 7:01 or whatever. But yeah,
Just something that helps us shoot for having free time, and you still have to and want to maintain your friendships and take time for coming to see Ethan and those kind of things. But it just takes concerted effort. You have to be proactive about it. There's a book that we read, I don't endorse everything on it, but it's called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. And I think maybe I heard Eric knew something about that, but it's just a good thing in general in your life to be in control of your phone and those kind of things so they don't eat up and waste a lot of your valuable time. We have a lot to accomplish, so.
Your business or your organization, no matter how important it is and how well it's going and how religious it is, if you want to put it in those terms, it will eat you alive if you let it. It really will. And no matter how well-intentioned you are, so you have to be intentional about managing the business. Don't let it run you. Don't let your computer run you or own you. Don't let your phone run you or own you. I've because of that book, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, I've made it a point to, sometimes I do it on weeknights, but starting Saturday evening, my phone automatically goes on Do Not Disturb and goes through Sabbath, and then like early Monday morning, it goes off of Do Not Disturb. And that's just one way, one small thing that I have chosen to do to not let my phone run me. And it doesn't have to be that for you. You may be in a situation where you have to have your phone and need to use it and get notifications and all that. So that's no problem, but that's what I have done, just one thing.
Yeah, so moving on to perhaps in the business world, strictly business world, one of the biggest things that's talked about is in the marketing world, how you get your brand out there. Once you've made this brand, you've established it, how do you get it to the people? How do you market it? How do you get people to come to you? Or I know sometimes you go to them, but how do you get the marketing? How do you do your branding?
That's a great question. You could talk a long time on that. I'm literally just going to hit some points here. Ultimately, it comes down to how are you perceived by the market. So we don't pay for any advertising. Well, I shouldn't. That's not true. We just recently bought a spot on a digital billboard that was put up there in Salem, just down the street from the coffee shop. So we do pay for that. Other than that, that's it. We do. We don't even do boost posts on Facebook or Instagram or any of that stuff. We do use social media, but your brand is the essence of what you do and who you are as an organization, and how you. I read a book. I read several books. I'm going to give you a list of some books that we found helpful. I don't endorse everything in every book, but there are good nuggets in in these books that I'll leave you with. But one book that I read. Oh my, just leaving me here.
The Chick-fil-A one, or
I'm sorry.
Remarkable?
I forgot the quote that I was going to say. Oh my goodness, that's crazy. Wow, just gone. Anyway, oh yes, building a story brand. I think Donald Miller. He said people don't buy products and services that are the cheapest or the best or really any of that kind of stuff. People buy products and services that are communicated the clearest and the simplest. So if you can very clearly and succinctly show your customers how you solve their problem, how your product or your service or whatever it is. And this can go, you have to think of, use your creativity and think of it a little bit differently, but it applies to any organization, whether it's for profit and you're actually out there selling coffee or you're selling widgets or whatever, or you're a Bible school. It doesn't matter. How you are solving a problem of some sort for a customer. And so communicate that clearly. And so then that will cause your customer base then to perceive you in a certain way. The kind of pictures that you put on, how you take those pictures, the lighting, how it's, what your logo looks like, your color palette, the words that you use in your post. All those things, if you just think about it, think of something that you follow on social media that you're very familiar with and you've seen a bunch of their stuff. Do you see sort of a general consistency across the board? Yes, you do. Yes, absolutely you do. And so that is what you're building. I had a couple pictures up there of things not to do. A friend of ours has a acquaintance down in Texas, a little coffee shop, and their pictures are just not good. I mean, big old long nails holding a cup and taking a picture, and you got these things staring at you around the cup, and just things like that are just, for us anyway, maybe that's attractive to somebody, but it's just like, ooh, things like that. Posts where business owners are complaining about business not being well, or people come to my store or whatever, those kinds of things, that just really leaves a bad taste in a consumer's mouth. And I would say this: never complain about anything in your marketing or social media collateral. You should always be positive, be upbeat, listen to your customers. They have great ideas. Now, they got a lot of bad ideas too. So do we, actually. I have bad ideas, and that's why I'm not doing this by myself. That's why she's not doing this by herself. That's why we have other people involved and we build a team. Because we are maybe good or naturally bent towards one thing, and we can shine in that area. And Carma mentioned staying in your lane. There's a balance. The hardest thing in the world is to balance. It's easy to go completely one direction or completely the other way. It's much harder to try to strike a balance. So, yes, in one respect, stay in your lane. If we call this your value grade. What's your value grade? What value do you bring to your organization? Stay in that lane broadly. If you're a artist or an artistic type person in your graphics, that's great. Stay in that lane, but don't go over here and try to build some sort of a inventory spreadsheet using Excel formulas. If you've never done that before, that's not to say you can't learn. And starting out, you may have to do everything, and you're not going to do everything very well, but you might get by. But mentally, know where your gifts are and where you shine. And as the organization builds, part of building your team is finding people to plug into those areas and let them shine and stay in that lane and do well and thrive in that area. Do you want to share?
I wondered how we're doing on time.
We are
20 minutes, I believe. Yeah.
okay.
We had some Google reviews, I believe.
Let me pull those up.
Sure. And this is just, again, I hesitate to show them just because it's not to brag about us. Most of this is reflection of our team at the window and the kind of service that they give. And I think Dan has said this before, I think there's a pretty low bar. What is he showing? Oh.
The Three Stooges.
Ethan.
I didn't approve all these photos. I didn't.
That was on purpose.
Yeah, cool. Okay.
There's a pretty low bar as far as, I'm sure you all recognize it when you go to a fast food restaurant or whatever, the service is often slow or not very friendly and whatever. So it's not really hard to shine in this area. It just takes a little bit of effort and people think you're just amazing. So anyway, there's some Google reviews and social media reviews that just speak to, and a lot of people tell us, even like at the window, they're just talking about they appreciate, some of them will just tell us they appreciate how we shine Jesus. And that is we just had somebody tell us that about a week ago, and they said that is the highest compliment that we could ever receive. And that's exactly what we're here trying to do. So coffee is just the avenue to contact people. So
Yeah, well, so we have about 15 minutes left. So we have a little bit of time. I'm going to open up to some questions that you all...
I don't know that that's one of my favorites. It's up there just because it's cute and kind of fun. Let me, there's one here that I do want to, because it speaks to here. Okay, I don't know, you guys can't see this. I'm going to leave it up there, but I'm going to read it. And I wrote it, but it's not because I wrote it. I witnessed this, and it's one of those deals where I mentioned before, there will be times where you may be struggling, you may be not, but there will be times where something is driven home to you as this is why we're here. It just sort of brings it all back, and it's like, yes, this is, and team buy-in, and they get it, and they're doing it. They have the same vision that we do, and they're sharing that. So I'll just read this to you. Carma and I, this was 8:16 p.m., so it was well after work. Carma and I want to recognize Morgan this evening. Today, she was at the point of sale window, and a lady came who had just lost her dog today and was stopping by 610 on her way back from dropping the dog off at the veterinary to be cremated. She was so distraught she could hardly speak. Morgan, who just so happens to be a crazy animal lover, anyway, she's amazing with animals, happened to be working the point of sale. She so kindly listened and gave words of comfort to the lady and held her hand and prayed with her out the drive-through window. A grown man nearby just about teared up. He was reminded, this is why we're here. This is what's most important. Not the dog, but the human souls that are so needing someone to care. That's all. Just care. Morgan, you embodied exactly what we desire from our team culture, seeking for ways to care for each other and for our guests. Thank you, Morgan, and thank you all for shining his light. And that was just, I walked in and watched it unfold right there in front of me, and I don't think Morgan even saw me. And I stepped in there, and she had her hand out the window and had her eyes down and was praying to the lady, and I saw that she was visibly, very distraught. But anyway, that's exactly what we're doing. Coffee is the vehicle for our ministry. It's not about coffee. Yes, we have to have really good coffee. It's got to be great. And we have to have really good service. But those community touch points, those customer touch points, everyone out that window, that's what we have the passion for and what we want 610 to be known for. We could sit here and just scroll through tons of reviews. Many of them talk about our good products and our good service, but a lot of them talk about, well, I guess it's coupled with service, but what really drives them and what strikes them is the friendliness, the care that they experienced and all of that. That's what spoke to them, and that's why they become, and I talk about this, I had some points that I had to skip over, but raving fans. And that is mentioned in the book Remarkable. And raving fans do three things. And this is actually what we do every day. We don't go every day to the coffee shop and say, okay, we need to sell, let's see if we can do 400 drinks today or whatever. We don't care about that. What we want to spend time and effort on is creating, in his words, raving fans. We don't really call them that, but raving fans. They do three things. They willingly pay full price. They come back often. And they tell everybody they know that they need to go do business with you. And why they do that is what we're all about. That's what we're creating. That's what we're generating. And that's the best kind, if you want to talk about marketing, advertising, that sort of thing. You always heard word of mouth is the best advertising that you can do. And that is how it's done. One person at a time, one experience at a time, one relationship at a time. And we're doing this in 3 minutes at a time, once a day, maybe twice a day. I mean, who knew that you could have that kind of opportunity in a little town? A couple little stats. Our town's 8,000 people, and we have a loyalty reward.
I think it's 6,000 now.
What's that?
I think it's 6,000.
It may be down to 6,000. The sign says 8,000, but it's probably, I'm sure it's down.
2020 census was about 6,000.
6,000, okay. 6,000 people. So 6,000 people out in the middle of a cornfield and bean field. No big town around. And we have a loyalty reward program where you put your phone number in and you get points and all that kind of thing. We have, it may be 10,600 now. It was 10,560 some last week or so. And it's just astonishing. In two years, we opened in 2021. All praise be to God. Thanks to God that he has allowed us to be a part of this, to share in this, and we're just real excited about that. Did you want to do some Q&A?
Yeah, if anybody has questions for Dan and Carma here, we have a few minutes left for crowd participation.
Before we do that, just if you guys want to write down a list of, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, I have 5 books. If you would like to write them down, I've found good information in them. Again, I do not endorse every book 100%, but here they are. Author David Salyers, Salyers, David Salyers, and his book is Remarkable, with the exclamation point. And he spent, and I think he still is affiliated with Chick-fil-A, CEO, or not CEO, Chief Marketing Officer, I believe, CMO. David Green, Leadership Not by the Book. He is the CEO of Hobby Lobby. David Green, Leadership Not by the Book. There's Donald Miller, Building a Story Brand. Donald Miller, Building a Story Brand. John Mark Comer, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. We've mentioned that one. John Mark Comer, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. And the last one I have, Michael E. Gerber, The E-Myth Revisited. The E-Myth Revisited, that's E-Myth, The E-Myth Revisited.
Okay.
Hopefully you can find some good in there to supplement your studies.
So do we have any questions this morning that want to be asked to this fine young couple? All right. Well, thank you.
We can be done early, that's fine.
Thank you both. We can be done early. Just want to take a few minutes. You all are right in the middle of a very vigorous coffee showdown.
We just had news, too.
Oh, what's that?
We just had news, too.
You had
We're
news.
up for vote again right now.
What?
We thought it was going to be Thursday, but we are up for vote like
Right now.
12, like right now. Well, 7
I got a
minutes
text
from now.
from somebody saying
When,
it was.
when it ends 7 minutes from now?
I believe it starts 7 minutes from now.
She said it
11?
started at 11.
So it's
Yeah.
almost 12, so it'll be
610
11.
is in the middle of a coffee bracket for just Southern Illinois, right? But
Yeah, downstate Illinois.
You're in competition with several other coffee shops. So if you're a fan of 610 and their brand and their ministry they're trying to start, go follow them at 610 Coffee Company on Facebook, Instagram, all the different things, and help them vote. And we really appreciate y'all coming out today. We thank you. Let's give them a round of applause, and you are all dismissed.
Thank you.